Welcome to the Next Big Thing podcast. I am Diditi, and today I'll be speaking with Afreen Fatima on the state of affairs regarding the treatment of the Muslim community in India. Violence against Muslims has increased in India under the rule of Bharatiya Janata Party, which many political figures and citizens and experts have believed is pursuing a Hindu nationalist agenda. Afreen is an activist and has been a prominent voice against the government of India's anti-Muslim policies, such as the Citizenship Amendment Act that passed in 2019, which has been criticized as discriminatory against the Muslim community after it only included non-Muslim migrants to be eligible for applying for the citizenship. Such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Afreen, I would like to start by asking you, when did you get so involved in this, being an active advocate in the media?
I would say my journey of speaking up maybe began in my undergraduate years when I contested for the Students' Union election at the Women's College Students' Union in Aligarh Muslim University. And I won the elections, and ever since when media would want to report about Aligarh Muslim University, which is a minority institute in India, and they'd reach out to the Students' Union president for students' opinion, and that's when it all basically started. I never really claimed the title of activist for myself. I never really said that about myself, but over the years I found myself being an activist. And from there I went to Jawaharlal Nehru University to pursue my master's. And there as well, I was active in student politics. I was elected to the Jawaharlal Nehru University Students' Union as a counselor from the School of Language, Literature and Culture Studies. And it was during my master's in 2019 when the Citizenship Amendment Bill was passed. And as students from a minority community in India, we were able to sort of conceptualize that the bill that is being proposed is divisive, is discriminatory, and we need to resist. And so, along with students from Jamia Millia Islamia and Aligarh Muslim University, we started protesting. I still remember on 13th of December 2019, when the bill had been very recently passed in the parliament, there was a long march called from Jamia Millia Islamia to the Parliament House, registering our protest against the bill. And ever since then, there was on 15th itself, there were continuous protests happening against the bill in Aligarh Muslim University, in Jamia Millia Islamia, in Delhi, at Jantar Mantar, which is a known protest site in the national capital. And on 15th of December, there was a brutal crackdown on the protesting students of Jamia Millia Islamia and Aligarh Muslim University. And the police entered the campuses, dispersing protesting students, using tear gas cannons, using pellet guns, using weapons that are used in war against students of this country, simply because these were two minority institutes, and most of the students were Muslims. And ever since then, Shaheen Bagh came to be, and there was a massive movement across the country against the Citizenship Amendment Act, wherein I traveled to several states, several cities across India. I talked to the people who were protesting. I myself was on the streets protesting the bill, registering our disagreement with the bill, with the act. And it was during one of my speeches was taken out of context, and a 15 or 30-second snippet of it was uploaded by a BJP spokesperson on Twitter, and then the media picked it up. And from then, all I know is that there was a vicious campaign against me that lasted for more than 4 days. So it was kind of a media trial where I was labeled as a terrorist. I was called divisive. I was basically called an anti-national, which is the best way to discredit, delegitimize anyone in India as of now. And ever since then, I don't think I've seen much reports by national media in India that see me as a Muslim woman belonging to India. They just see me as a Muslim activist who needs to be quiet down.
In June, your home was demolished by the Indian police after your father, who is also an activist and community leader, was accused of organizing protests over the anti-Islamic remarks made by the national spokesperson of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Do you think that's because your prominent presence, both of your prominent presence in media, that you were targeted like that? Because they just came and they claimed that your house was under illegal property and illegal construction. So how did that spark?
So basically, the reason why my father was arrested or targeted by in a very systemic way by the administration in Allahabad and the police force in Allahabad was simply because he was an active member of the Muslim community. He was speaking up when he should be, but at the same time, he was also present in all of the peace committees that the police and district administration would form so as to ensure peace in the city. He would always be present in these negotiating meetings, and he would be there for the community in front of administration, in front of officials of the police, of the administration, and he would put the case of Muslims of Allahabad. And I believe they did not like it. They did not like someone who was helping the poor, who was distributing blankets during winters, who was distributing food ration packets during the first wave of COVID, who was distributing oxygen cylinders during the second wave of COVID, and is also an active vocal member of the Muslim community who's advocating for the rights of Muslims and ensuring that there is no discrimination that happens to the community. And along with that, he's also my father. He's raised 5 brave, strong children, and all of us, he's sort of inbuilt it in us. We've grown with this idea of knowing right from wrong, from knowing when we have to speak up and when we should stay quiet, and when things are too much and that we should be out there on the streets. And he's always been supportive. Yeah, so of course he was arrested because he was a member of the Muslim community who was vocal, who was active, who was present, and who was taking up space, and a space that's not expected of Muslims to take up. My father would file petitions in the Allahabad High Court demanding action against discriminatory policies in town and across India. He would file FIR complaints against hate speeches that would happen in Allahabad. Most of the times, the FIRs would not be registered by the police because of a bias that is there in the police force. But he would always be there and be present. And then he also raised us in a way that made us also active, present citizens of India. And all of that coupled was probably irking the administration. They probably I don't really know what exactly they thought, but the only reason why he's been unjustly incarcerated is because they did not want him out on the streets. They needed him to be silenced, and that's how they did it. And as for my house, the administration has claimed that it was an illegal construction, but we had been paying our house tax, our water tax, our electricity bills for over 20 years, and never once were we told that it's an illegal construction. Uh, what kind of administration takes house tax and says that the house itself is illegal? Why would you tax something that's illegal? Uh, and it was a form of a punishment that was levied against our family. It was not because our house was illegal or not. Our house was demolished simply because it was a message to the entire Muslim population that you could not be speaking up. You're taking too much space, and we destroy the most personal objects of yours. We'll destroy. There's a sense of security that you feel inside your house. A person feels safe inside your house, but when that very house is demolished, you're forced to feel insecure. Even when so for the entire Muslim population, by extension, they've been told that you cannot feel safe even inside the four walls of your house, and that's just why our house was demolished.
Why do you think the existence of Islamic identity seems to threaten non-Muslim groups in India?
The answer to this is in the very ideological texts of the RSS, where M.S. Golwalkar, where V.D. Savarkar have very openly talked about the idea of racial supremacy and how India is a land for Hindus and it should remain so. So this, and they've also appreciated and taken cues from the racial supremacist ideas of fascist parties of Europe, like the Nazi Party of Germany, and they've appreciated, so it comes from that idea of racial supremacy, of that this land belongs to this particular community, and every other community should either assimilate into this dominant culture and identity or should accept second-class citizenship. And when India became independent, India chose to be a secular democratic nation. India rejected the idea of being a Hindu nation, of being a Hindu Rashtra that the RSS wanted. And ever since the RSS has been present, it has slowly and gradually compromised all organs of the state, all machinery, all institutions of the state. And it's now reaping what it sowed in its earlier formation days during the 1920s. So the only reason why there is an attack on the Muslim community, on the Christian community, and other minority communities is simply because we do not blend into the dominant culture. We do not blend into the dominant identity, and we are also not submissive enough to accept second-class citizenship.
I want to talk about the CAA bill for a bit. The Indian government has said that this bill's only goal is to protect religiously persecuted minorities in countries like Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. The BJP has also argued that this constitution and this bill continue to prove India as a secular nation after its partition with Pakistan and India. If India is a country that calls itself a secular nation, once again going back to the question of why do you think the Indian government is targeting the Muslim community in particular? Because there are other groups, there are Christians in India, there are Jainists in India. Why Muslim in particular? Like, why is it targeting Muslim in particular?
So the reason, so I'll start with the bill and then I'll come back to the reason why there's a particular or rampant hate against Muslims that's outright and present, and so everyone can see it. So for the bill, the Home Minister Amit Shah has in several speeches, public speeches, said that the National Citizenship Act and the National Register of Citizens would be coupled together to throw the termites, which is a term used for Muslims particularly, to throw the termites out of this country. So we know the nefarious agenda behind this bill, and there's a reason why only one community is left out. And in fact, it's not just one community. There are several other communities that have been, several other religions that have been left out from the bill. For example, the Jewish community. Why would the Indian government not give citizenship to Jewish people coming from Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Afghanistan if they're persecuted? Why not to Muslims? There are several Muslim communities, Muslim minority identities within the Muslim community that are persecuted in Bangladesh, Pakistan, such as the Ismaili Muslims. Why not give citizenship if you're really concerned about persecution, and if you really want to prove your secular credentials? Why not open your gates to every persecuted minorities from wherever they come from, whatever identity they hold? But it is known that the BJP's agenda is to exterminate the entire Muslim population. And now coming to why does the BJP and the RSS want to exterminate and particularly target the Muslim community. It's not just that the Muslim community is targeted; the Christian community is also a persecuted minority in India. If you go across hate crime reports, you'd find a lot of Christian pastors that are beaten up by Hindu vigilante groups. A lot of Christian members of the Christian community who are victims of violent hate crimes. The Sikh community is persecuted, but the Muslim community is particularly persecuted, and it's being persecuted through policy, as in like all forces of this mighty Indian state is against the Muslim community. The judiciary, the police force, the administration, the parliament, everything is against the Muslim community as of now. And the reason for it is because there is this way to control minds and to manufacture consent. There is this way to rally up emotions inside people. And post 9/11, in fact, even before 9/11, there has been a dominant hate for Muslims, this emotion of hate against Muslims, wherein globally Islamophobia has been present ever since. And drawing up from that, it is easy to label Muslims as the other, especially because of the partition of India and Pakistan, the partition of the Indian subcontinent into two different chunks of countries. And ever since the partition happened, ever since India gained its independence and Pakistan gained its independence, they were seen as rivals of each other when they were supposed to be brothers and sisters of each other. And that's the emotion that the trauma of partition is used to sort of criminalize the Muslims of India who chose to stay in India, who are in India, who believed in, who probably at that time wanted to live in a secular democratic nation. And it's used to sort of rally up emotions, and so as to create this vote bank that is governed by hate against a particular community, and that has an agenda. So when you have an agenda that you want to eliminate this particular population, you will not rest by the time until that task is done. And so it's a very clever way to do that. And also I believe that Islamic and Christian values are inherently of justice and of liberation. And when one goes back to Brahminical texts, one realizes that there is a discrimination that is present, that is the caste discrimination. And the hate against Muslims in the Christian community is also because there has been noted empirical data to support that a lot of lower caste communities have opted mass conversion to Christianity and to Islam so as to escape caste violence. And that is also a problem for the Brahminical forces, because if lower castes would convert to Christianity and Islam, who would they then rule? Who would they then command? Who would sanitate? Who would do the sanitation work in their house? And so it's just not adding up for them. And it's best to eliminate whatever threat that the supremacist Brahmin ideology has.
With the existence of this crisis that's going on for way too long, do you think is India experiencing its own form of apartheid?
It absolutely is, and it's directly directed against the Muslim community as of present. I say this because all aspects of the Islamic faith have been criminalized. Wearing a hijab has been banned in Karnataka. Schoolgirls cannot wear hijab even if they want to, and they cannot access education, which is a fundamental human right. And it's a fundamental right in the Constitution of India. Then there is an attack on Azan, wherein people are petitioning in several high courts that Azan should also be banned. The 5 times calling of prayer in the mosques. And then there's attack on the mosques themselves, wherein mosques are demolished. There was the biggest example of it was the Babri Masjid, but there are hundreds of other mosques that have been listed and that have been targeted by vandalism. Some have also been demolished by state actors, that is, by officials of the state. And then there is an attack on namaz, wherein Muslims offering namaz are attacked, are sort of threatened to leave a particular place where they're offering namaz, even when it is sanctioned, when they have all the permissions required to offer namaz there. Still, we saw an example of it in Gurgaon, where every Friday Hindu right-wing groups would come to a designated namaz spot and would shout Jai Shri Ram as Muslims would offer namaz. And so in that sense, all aspects of Islamic faith, all physical, perceivable aspects of Islamic faith, such as the hijab, such as the namaz, such as the mosque, is being targeted. And so the intention of it is to, so when you say, when you tell a Muslim girl that if she wants to access education, she would have to remove a piece of cloth from her head, you're basically telling her that you cannot access this if you do not blend in or assimilate to this dominant identity, and so that you may not be known. And you're basically excluding her. And this form of apartheid has been, sadly enough, it has been legalized it has been judicially sanctioned by the Karnataka High Court. And when you read about apartheid, for example, in during the civil rights movement, when you think of apartheid in terms of what Israel is doing in Palestine, you see the pattern of it repeating in India, and it's repeating at this massive level, wherein more than 200 billion Muslims are under threat of a genocide, under threat of a genocide, and it's disturbing.
I want to go back to the case of the hijab ban in states like Karnataka, and there have been instances where the Indian state has also put legal ban on things like triple talaq bill that people have said to liberate women, and then they go and support hijab ban in states like Karnataka. What do you think the intention is here? Is this all an act of the government to drive a pro-agenda cause, or do you think there are Indian politicians or party members that genuinely care about the Muslim community?
If the if the government, or even if anyone cared about the Muslim community, they would come talk to us, and we tell them what we need. We want equal representation. We want equal rights. We want dignified existence. That's it. We don't want anything else as of now. And banning hijab or criminalizing triple talaq. So, it's sort of portrayed as to that the act or the policy is to liberate Muslim women from oppressive households or male-dominated households, wherein the Muslim man is demonized and criminalized to this particular stereotypical image, and the Muslim woman is being liberated by someone. We don't need anyone to liberate us. We don't need anyone to save us. If you really are so concerned about Muslim women, you would listen to us. You would not tell us that I'm banning this for your own good. You would. I can tell you what's good for me and what's not good for me. For example, the triple talaq, the Supreme Court of India had already ruled that the triple talaq was null and void. There was no point of criminalizing a civil practice which is already null and void, except that you had an agenda of criminalizing the Muslim man by extension. And even when it comes to hijab, Muslim women who do not wear the hijab, or who they don't wear the hijab. No, there are a lot of Muslim girls who go to school and they do not wear the hijab. But at the same time, a lot of us, we believe that it's an inherent religious obligation for us, and we wear it, and so we should have the right to do it, because it's a fundamental human right to be able to follow what you want, to be able to wear what you want. And in the act of making Muslim women remove a piece of cloth, there's this very filthy voyeuristic gaze that is attached to it. And there's this entire emotion, this entire fetish of unveiling Muslim women, like we saw in France, in Algeria. And so it's coupled with these fetishes that we read on social media, where Hindu men romanticize and fantasize about Muslim women, and they openly use filthy language for Muslim women. And then when Muslim women are forced to wear hijab or remove hijab, if they want to enter an educational space where they had been wearing the hijab, the media, like vultures, records the act of unveiling and then puts it out on social media, on all its platform for everyone to see and to enjoy. And it's it's a very filthy thing that's happening when the act of forcing someone to remove a piece of cloth. It's just like, if I'd ask you to remove your shirt, it's just the same for us. And one should understand that I'm not comfortable just like you would not be comfortable removing your shirt, I'm not comfortable removing a piece of cloth on my head. And it should not be a matter of uniformity or anything. It's a basic right of a person to have dignified existence, which is being snatched from us.
What is life like been for you as a Muslim woman and for the Muslim women in your community following the CAA bill and everything that's happening right now?
It has definitely been very uncertain. It has been we go through these emotions of anger, of sadness, of despair, of rage, or every day, and we don't really know how to make sense of it. We don't really know how to tackle the situation that we've been forced into, to fight this fight that we never really started, and to sort of survive it all. And so it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's difficult for us, and but we're willing to fight. But we're willing to survive it all, and we're willing. I feel that hopelessness is the only emotion that has not overcome the Muslim community as of now, and that's the only reason why I am talking to you right now, and why so many Muslims are resisting just by existing.
We've seen the Indian nation divided over the years, where lives of many citizens from both sides, whether you be Muslim or Hindu or any religion, have been lost, and others have been martyred in these clashes of protest and demonstration between different communities. Where do you think India is headed in regards to being a so-called secular nation? Can we ever hope that this country ever has a religious unity?
So when you talk about these clashes, it is important that I point that most of the time these clashes are a result of riled up emotions for political gains, and there's enough studies and researches that have been done about the riots and pogroms that happen in India, and this so-called Hindu-Muslim violence. When someone says it's a clash, what is essentially being said is that there's two communities that are on level, and then they're fighting with each other, which is not the case. The Hindu community is much privileged and has state support, has support of the police. And then, when there is an attack on a community, and the act of self-defense is itself criminalized, which is also guaranteed by the Constitution of India, by the Indian Penal Code itself. But then it's labeled in a way that there was a clash between the Hindu and the Muslim community, and so many lives were claimed. And I do agree that people from both the communities have lost lives, but it's not a level playing field. It's a disproportionate balance scale, and the Muslim community is underprivileged, and the Hindu community is at an advantage. But in terms of this kind of violence where people feel the need to go to a Muslim locality and burn down Muslim houses and burn down Muslim businesses and kill in broad daylight, and it would only stop. It would only come to a halt or come to an end when the people of the majority community start claiming their religious identity and saying that you cannot do this in my name. When people of the majority community come out on the street and say that you cannot lynch a Muslim man shouting Jai Shri Ram, because Jai Shri Ram is a religious slogan and I will not let you use it as a war cry. And it is only when the majority community wakes up from its slumber and acknowledges the rot that is present in its front yard. It's not in the backyard anymore. And it says, enough, you cannot do this in my name. This is not what Hinduism is about. And a lot of members of the Hindu community are resisting the Hindu nationalist ideology and agenda, but not enough Hindus are doing it. And it's essential that the Hindu majority claims its identity from the RSS and from the BJP. And there have been instances, there have been times of peaceful coexistence between the Hindu and the Muslim community, and it's not all lost. We can go back to that, but it's on the majority community to take action.
By taking action, how how can we as viewers, as listeners who are witnessing this in India can help people from the Muslim communities?
I feel that the way to if you're someone in India, hold your politicians accountable. Hold what a BJP politician or a Congress politician is saying. Hold them accountable. Don't let them make hate speeches while you're in a rally that they're giving, talking about raping Muslim women. You should hold them accountable. And if you're someone outside of India, I think the best you can do is ask your senators, ask your parliamentarians, ask your leaders to hold the Indian state accountable, to make them answer of what they're doing to its own minority, to a community that has been in India and that has belonged to India for thousands of years. And all of a sudden you say that you're not a part of us and you better leave. It's advocate for the rights of Muslims in India. Make the Indian government know that the world is watching and they can't get away with a genocide of Muslims in India.
Mm-hmm. All right. With that, we have come to the end of our conversation, Afreen. Today, I've been talking with Afreen Fatima about the treatment of Muslims by the Indian government and its citizens. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Afreen, once again for sharing your views and your personal story. And thank you for joining our show. This is Diditi for Next Big Thing magazine.
Thank you very much.